They asked the scruffy stranger in the cap to wait outside, assuming he was just another random visitor. A minute later, when someone recognized him as Keanu Reeves, the entire office fell silent in shock. In that moment, everyone learned a powerful lesson about not judging people by appearances, and about true humility. I was the one who told him to wait outside. I was the one who looked straight into his eyes, misjudged him in a heartbeat, and sent him back through that glass door like he didn't matter. By then the office was already on fire. At least that's what it felt like. Phones were ringing off the hook, someone in legal was shouting about contracts, and my boss, Mark, was pacing the corridor like a general about to lose a war. We were a mid-level production company in Los Angeles, clinging to our one big chance, an action film called Midnight Circuit. If today's meeting went well, we'd get our first reel A-list star attached. If it went badly, we'd go back to chasing commercials and low-budget music videos. No one wanted to go back. I was the junior assistant, the person who did everything no one else wanted to do. Coffee runs, frantic printing, rescuing files from crashing laptops. I kept glancing at the conference room where they were setting up for the big pitch. The director, the producers, and Mark, wearing the only suit he owned that didn't look like it hated him. My heart was hammering for reasons that had nothing to do with the movie. I'd invited my childhood friend Sophia, now a stunt coordinator, to pitch a sequence for the film. If this worked, it could change both our lives. And somewhere beneath all that stress, I was trying not to stare too obviously at Ethan from marketing, whose smile had been quietly wrecking my concentration for months. That's when the door opened and he walked in. He didn't stride in with the entitlement we were used to seeing from wannabe actors. No sunglasses, no entourage. Just a faded black cap, an old leather jacket, jeans that looked like they'd seen more motor oil than red carpets. He paused in the doorway as if checking whether he was interrupting something important, then stepped aside so an intern could rush past with a stack of scripts. When the intern dropped 2 of them, the man bent down without a word, picked them up, and handed them back with a small, gentle smile. "Hey," he said to me, voice low and calm, as I tried to juggle a phone, a laptop, and a tray of coffees. "Sorry to bother you. I'm supposed to meet with, Mark and the Midnight Circuit team." He glanced at a folded piece of paper in his hand like he wasn't completely sure he belonged here. I looked him up and down, too tired and too stressed to think past what I saw, scruffy, quiet, alone. Definitely not the powerful investor we were waiting for. Definitely not the mystery special guest the director kept hinting about. In this office, people like him were usually delivery drivers, extras without appointments, or fans trying to sneak in for autographs. I tried to be polite anyway. "Do you have a badge?" I asked, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, laptop wedged under one arm. "Or, a scheduled time." He searched his pockets, then frowned with a small, self-conscious shrug. "I, think they told me to just come up. No badge, I'm a little early though, I can wait." Before I could answer, Mark's voice sliced through the chaos. "Lena," he barked from the end of the hall. "Stop clogging the doorway. We don't have time for walk-ins today. If he doesn't have an appointment, tell him to wait outside or come back later. We're on lockdown." The man heard every word. His eyes flicked toward Mark, then back to me. There was no anger in them, only a kind of tired understanding I'd seen before in people used to being overlooked. Heat rushed to my face. I hated how this place made me treat people, how quickly we sorted them into important and background. "I'm really sorry," I said, lowering my voice, wishing I could do more. "We're in the middle of a big meeting. Could you wait just outside the glass doors? I'll come get you as soon as I can, I promise." For a heartbeat, I thought he might push back, say something, at least let a little irritation slip. Instead, he gave me that same small, patient smile. "No worries," he said. "I've waited in worse places." Then, almost as an afterthought, he stepped aside to hold the door open for a woman carrying a box of cables, nodding at her like she was the important one here. Only after everyone else had passed did he quietly walk back through the glass doors and disappear into the corridor. The guilt started creeping in the second he left. I'd worked in restaurants before this job. I knew what it felt like to be treated like furniture, invisible unless someone needed something. The way he'd accepted it, with humility instead of bitterness, made my chest hurt. But there was no time to dwell on it. Sophia arrived in a whirlwind of duffel bags and elbow pads, joking that she might have to tackle someone just to get noticed. Ethan flashed me that lopsided grin that always made my brain go static. And behind us, the conference room doors swung shut, sealing off our little world of anxiety and hope. Inside, the director paced in front of the giant screen, rehearsing his pitch. "Once we lock the lead," he kept saying, "everything changes. This guy is a legend. People love him because he's real. No ego, no drama, just pure heart." The producers nodded, giddy, trading whispers about box office numbers and merchandise. I remember thinking, whoever this guy is, he has no idea how much we're counting on him. Half an hour later, the meeting was supposed to start. The director checked his watch for the third time. Mark's fake, confident smile was starting to crack. The mystery A-list star, the one whose name they refused to say out loud in case the deal fell through, still hadn't shown up. Every second felt heavier, like the room itself was sinking. Finally, the elevator chimed out in the hallway, followed by hurried footsteps. The receptionist burst in, slightly out of breath. "Hey, quick question," she said. "Did anyone see the guy for the midnight circuit meeting? Security says a man came up about 40 minutes ago, no badge, quiet, wearing a black cap and leather jacket. They thought he was with you." I felt the blood drain from my face. 40 minutes, black cap, leather jacket. My mind flashed to the gentle way he'd picked up the intern's scripts, the way he'd said he'd waited in worse places, the way I'd pointed to the door like he was clutter in the lobby. The room went strangely quiet, as if everyone could feel the shape of a mistake forming but couldn't quite see it yet. "Lena," Mark said slowly, his eyes narrowing, "please tell me you didn't send some important guest to wait outside." My throat tightened. In the reflection of the glass wall, I saw myself, small, nervous, suddenly very aware of how easily kindness gets crushed under pressure. I pushed back my chair so fast it scraped the floor. "I'll check," I managed, already sprinting for the door. Out in the corridor, the sunlight from the windows was blinding after the dim conference room. For a terrifying moment, I thought he might be gone, that I'd shoved away the one person who could change everything. Then I saw him through the glass lobby doors, still there, leaning against the wall, talking quietly with the security guard as if he had nowhere else in the world to be. I pulled the door open, heart pounding. His eyes lifted to meet mine, calm and kind, with a tired depth that made me feel suddenly very small. "Hey," he said softly, "everything okay?" Behind me, I heard the conference room door swing open and the low murmur of voices swell into shocked silence. Shoes scuffed to a halt on the polished floor. Someone actually gasped. I didn't have to turn around to know that in that instant, every single person finally realized who he was. And standing there between him and the people who dismissed him, I felt the weight of my own mistake settle on my shoulders, just as he took a slow breath and opened his mouth to speak. His first words weren't angry, they were an apology. "Sorry I'm late," he said, even though he'd been there longer than any of us. "I think I got in the way of the system a little." Behind me, someone finally found their voice. "Mr. Reeves," the director stammered, his usual swagger gone. Papers rustled, footsteps shuffled closer. We thought you were still downstairs with your team. We didn't realize you'd already arrived." The name rippled through the hallway like electricity. Keanu Reeves, the man who'd carried entire franchises, the face on half the posters in our editing bay, the one they'd been whispering about for weeks like some kind of myth. And he was standing 3 feet away from me, looking more concerned about my expression than the chaos he'd just walked into. "It's okay," he said gently, eyes resting on my flushed face. "She did exactly what she was told. You've got a busy office, I get it." He glanced at the security guard who looked like he might faint. "We were having a pretty good conversation, actually." The director rushed forward, hand outstretched, talking too fast. "Keanu, may I call you Keanu? Thank you so much for coming. We are honored, we're huge fans, this project is." He cut him off with a small, almost shy laugh. "Just Keanu is fine." Then he turned back to me. "And you're?" "Lena," I managed, my tongue suddenly made of sandpaper. I'm Mark's assistant." I could feel Mark's eyes burning holes in the side of my head. Keanu nodded like that actually meant something. Nice to meet you, Lena. Thanks for trying to keep some order out here. He gestured toward the conference room. Should we go in before somebody explodes from nerves? The tension broke in an awkward wave of laughter. As everyone shuffled back inside, I started to step away, ready to retreat into the safety of my desk and my to-do list, but Keanu's voice stopped me. Hey, Lena, he said, tilting his head toward the room. You coming? I blinked. Oh, I usually don't sit in on meetings, I just set things up. Then maybe it's a good day to do something different, he replied, eyes warm but firm. You know the chaos better than anyone, right? That's valuable. He looked at Mark, not confrontational, just quietly certain. She can join us, yeah. Mark's smile stretched too tight. Of course, if you'd like her there, by all means. Under his breath, as we walked in behind Keanu, he hissed to me, Don't say a word unless someone asks you directly. We cannot afford any more mistakes. The conference room felt different now, almost smaller. Everyone watched Keanu like he was gravity, and we were all just objects pulled into his orbit. But he took the seat closest to me instead of the one at the head of the table, resting his cap on his knee, rolling the brim absent-mindedly between his fingers. Sophia sat across from us, eyes wide, clearly trying not to freak out. Ethan slid into a chair near the projector and flashed me a quick, sympathetic look that said, You okay? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. The director launched into the pitch, storyboards flashing across the screen, neon cityscapes, motorcycles slicing through rain, rooftop chases under a bleeding sunset. It was the kind of movie I'd secretly dreamed about working on when I applied for this job. As he talked, Keanu listened like the world outside the room didn't exist, occasionally leaning forward to study a frame or squint at a line of dialogue on the page. And for the highway ambush sequence, the director said, his voice growing more animated, we've brought in a fresh stunt coordinator with some pretty wild ideas. He gestured toward Sophia. This is Sophia Morales. She has a background in parkour, combat choreography, and... Sophia cut in, nerves obvious but masked by her steady tone. I grew up doing backyard stunts with mattresses and broken fences, she said. Now I just get paid for it and try to keep people alive. A few polite laughs circled the room. She clicked to a new slide, a diagram of moving cars, rigging points, wire pulls. As she described the stunt, a motorcycle weaving through a convoy of trucks, a controlled rollover into a barrier, the hero climbing out bloodied but unbroken, Keanu's eyes lit up. He started asking questions, not about how cool it would look, but about the crew. How many people on the rigging team? What's your plan if we get surprise rain? Who gets final say on calling it off if it feels wrong? Sophia answered with a careful mix of passion and caution, clearly in her element. Then one of the producers, a man who wore his watch like a weapon, leaned back and let out a skeptical sigh. It's ambitious, he said, the word ambitious landing like stupid. And expensive, too many moving parts. We can just fake half of that with CG and a green screen. The audience won't know the difference. Sophia's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. The director hesitated, looking between the producer's spreadsheet and Sophia's diagrams. Silence pressed on my ears. This was the moment that would decide whether my best friend got the biggest break of her life or walked out with nothing. Keanu looked straight past the producer's folded arms and found my eyes instead. It startled me so much I almost dropped my pen. What do you think, Lena? He asked calmly. You've been here the whole time, you know what this team can do. Is this stunt worth fighting for, or should we play it safe? And as every face in the room turned toward me, I realized that whatever came out of my mouth next might change everything. For Sophia, for this film, maybe even for my own place at this table. My first instinct was to disappear, to sink under the table, to pretend I hadn't heard the question. But Keanu was still watching me, not with pressure, but with a kind of patient curiosity, like my opinion actually mattered. Sophia's hand tightened around her laser pointer. Ethan's knee bounced under the table. Mark gave me a look that screamed, do not ruin this for us. I'm not a stunt expert, I began, my voice thinner than I wanted. But I've seen Sophia work. She doesn't push for big stunts just to show off. She pushes because she knows how to do them safely and because real stakes feel different on screen. I swallowed, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. I think people can tell when a moment is real, even if they don't know how they can tell, they feel it, and they'll remember it. The room held its breath. The producer with the weapon watch smirked, ready to pounce. "That's a very poetic answer," he said, "but poetry doesn't cover insurance premiums." Keanu didn't look at him. He kept his gaze on me. "You trust her with your life?" he asked. The question punched the air out of my lungs. I looked at Sophia. We'd grown up jumping off garages together, taping cardboard armor to ourselves, pretending the world would someday ask us to be brave for real. She'd been there when my dad walked out, when my mom got sick, when I almost gave up and moved back home. She was the one who told me, if they won't give you a seat at the table, sneak in as the person who brings the coffee and start rearranging the chairs. "Yes," I said, the word coming out steadier this time. "I do." Keanu sat back, thoughtful, then he turned to the director. "Let's see it." The director blinked. See what?" "The stunt," Keanu said, as if it were obvious. "I learn best by watching. If they can mock up a version even low-tech, I'll know if it feels right. We've got a parking garage, a few cars, some pads, right?" He glanced at Sophia. "You game?" Her eyes sparked. "Always." The producer groaned. "We don't have time for this. There are liability issues, paperwork." "We won't put anyone in real danger," Sophia cut in, sharper than before. "We can do a scaled-down version. No high speeds, no impact, just the beats and the timing. If he still hates it, I walk away. Deal." Keanu shrugged, easy but firm. "Seems fair." Reluctantly, with a lot of muttering about schedules and budgets, the meeting migrated to the top level of the parking structure. The sun glared off a patchwork of parked cars and faded lane markings. Sophia and her small stunt team moved with practiced focus, grabbing mats from her van, marking distances with tape, turning a drab concrete space into something alive. I found myself standing next to Ethan by a concrete pillar as Sophia explained the sequence, using one car as the truck and another as the hero bike. Keanu listened like a student, repeating movements, practicing the way his body would roll, how he'd brace his hands to make the impact look painful but land safely. There was an easy kind of fun in the air now, the kind that comes when people do what they're born to do. "Never thought I'd watch Keanu Reeves rehearse a stunt in our parking lot," Ethan murmured beside me. "If this doesn't get us 1 million views on the behind-the-scenes reel, nothing will." I laughed shakily. "If it goes well, maybe I still have a job tomorrow." He nudged my arm gently. "Hey, you spoke up in there. That was brave, no matter what Mark says." Before I could answer, Sophia called out, "Quiet for rehearsal." Her team took positions. One of the PAs, a lanky guy named Tyler, slid behind the wheel of the truck car, ready to roll it forward at a crawl so Keanu could time his slide across the hood. Everyone tensed with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Nice and slow," Sophia reminded. "We're just blocking it, no heroics yet." On her cue, Tyler eased his foot onto the gas. The car crept forward. Keanu jogged alongside, then planted a hand on the hood, swinging his legs up in a smooth arc. The first run was careful, almost gentle. Everyone exhaled, a few claps breaking the tension. "Again," Sophia said. "Let it roll a little longer this time. I want to see the timing on the dismount." The second run began. This time, as the car moved, something changed. A small clunk, then a sickening lurch. The car jerked forward faster than it should have, the engine coughing. Tyler's eyes went wide through the windshield. His foot was pumping the brake, but the pedal sank uselessly to the floor. "Brakes," he shouted. "No brakes." The car picked up speed, rolling straight toward a cluster of crew members and a stack of equipment cases near the edge of the lot. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The sound of rubber on concrete roared in my ears. Then everything happened at once. Keanu dropped off the hood mid-move, landing harder than planned, but as soon as his feet hit the ground, he bolted, not away but toward the danger. Hands waving, voice cutting through the panic, he shouted for people to clear out. A frozen PA snapped back to life and stumbled aside, tripping over a cable. One of the lights teetered, metal screeching against its stand. I didn't think, I just ran. A fire extinguisher hung from a pillar halfway between us and the runaway car. I grabbed it, fingers fumbling at the pin, mind scrambling for the safety video they'd made us watch my first week. The car slammed into a row of cases, knocking them sideways. One of the lights crashed down, its metal head sparking against the ground as a cable tore free. "Back," someone yelled. "Watch the—" The spark hit a small pool of spilled gasoline near a generator someone had rolled out earlier. A tiny flame snapped to life, licking its way along the concrete like it was choosing a direction. Keanu was already yanking Tyler out through the driver's side, shielding him with his body. My legs burned as I charged forward, extinguisher heavy in my hands, heart rattling my ribs. For one dizzy moment I thought, this is ridiculous. This is a movie scene, I'm not the person who does this, but there was no one closer, no one faster. I squeezed the handle and a roar of white foam burst out, startling me but not stopping me. I swung the nozzle toward the flame just as it reached the edge of the generator. The fumes clawed at my throat, my eyes watered, but I kept spraying, refusing to look away. The fire hissed, sputtered, then died, leaving nothing but the sharp smell of chemicals and burned air. Silence dropped over the lot, heavy, ringing, disbelieving. Someone started coughing. Tyler leaned against the car, shaking, mumbling apologies. Sophia was already checking her team for injuries, barking curses and orders in the same breath. The producer looked like he might throw up. Mark stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Keanu straightened slowly, dust on his jacket, a raw scrape on his arm. He took in the scene, then walked toward me, his gaze searching my face in a way that made my knees want to give out. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Yeah," I panted, the extinguisher still clutched in my aching hands. "I think so." He nodded once, then looked at the mangled equipment and the shaken crew. When he finally spoke loud enough for everyone to hear, his voice was calm but unyielding. "This wasn't a stunt problem," he said. "This was a safety problem, and that's not on them." The producer snapped out of his shock. "This is exactly why I said we shouldn't do this," he shot back, face flushed. "We can't afford this kind of risk. We should pull the plug on these stunts, maybe on the whole project." A murmur rippled through the group, fear, frustration, disappointment. Our chance slipping away because of a faulty brake line and some spilled fuel. Keanu's jaw tightened. He glanced at Sophia, at me, at the crew who'd nearly been hurt doing something they hadn't even been allowed to fully attempt. Then he looked straight at the producer. "If you cut them," he said quietly, "you cut me." The words landed like a hammer. And in that suspended moment, with smoke still curling in the air and everyone waiting to see which way the future would tilt, the producer's mouth opened to answer. The producer's response came out as a strained laugh, the kind people use when they're not sure if they're being threatened or tested. "You can't actually mean that," he said, trying to smooth his voice back into control. "We're talking about millions of dollars here." "I mean exactly that," Keanu replied, not raising his voice, not needing to. "If the people who risk their bodies and their time aren't protected, I'm not interested. I've walked away from sets for less." His gaze swept across the lot, landing on me for a heartbeat before moving on. "You don't build something great by treating your crew like they're disposable." Mark stepped between them, palms up. "Let's all take a breath," he said with a practiced smile I'd learned to mistrust. "We're all shaken. There's clearly a problem with that vehicle, but assigning blame right now isn't useful. We'll file an incident report, review safety protocols." "Blame?" The producer's head snapped toward us. "The blame is obvious. Unauthorized rehearsal, unapproved vehicle use, staff making decisions they had no business making." His eyes landed on Sophia. "You were in charge of this circus." Sophia's shoulders stiffened. "I cleared everything with your office. We used your equipment, your cars, your—" "And who told you it was a good idea to turn our parking lot into a stunt park?" He cut in. His gaze flickered to me, sharp as glass. "Who vouched for this? Who insisted we fight for the big stunt?" Heat crawled up my neck. Before I could speak, Mark was already sliding in, the way he always did when there was a chance to redirect fallout. "My assistant may have gotten carried away," he said, with that regretful tone that sounded like concern but tasted like betrayal. "She's enthusiastic but inexperienced. I should have supervised more closely. We can address that internally." The words hit harder than any car. For a second, the edges of my vision blurred. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. If I argued, I'd look defensive. If I stayed quiet, his version became the truth. Ethan's hand brushed my elbow, a small, steadying contact. "That's not what happened," Ethan said, surprising me more than anyone. His voice shook, but he didn't back down. "Lena didn't organize this. The director and the producers agreed to it. Everyone was here. She just answered a question she was asked." Keanu's eyebrows lifted slightly. The producer scoffed. "So now the marketing guy is an expert in chain of command." Ethan straightened. "I may be the marketing guy, but I was here. I saw who signed off on what. And I saw who ran toward the car and who ran away from it." Silence cracked across the group. A few heads turned toward the producer, who had indeed stepped backward when the car lurched forward. His jaw clenched. "Enough," he snapped. "We'll sort this out with legal. For now, the stunt coordinator and the assistant are suspended from the project, effective immediately." The words tore through me like cold wind. Sophia's face hardened, but I saw the hurt underneath. Months of planning, of dreaming, cut off with a single sentence. Keanu shook his head, that same quiet certainty sharpening into something like steel. "No," he said, "that's not how this is going to go." The producer laughed again, a brittle sound. "With respect, you're an actor, not a partner in this company. You don't make personnel decisions." "Maybe not," Keanu replied. "But I do decide where I put my name and my time. And if you punish the people who just saved your crew because your car's brakes failed, I can't trust you, which means I can't work with you." The director, who'd been frozen between horror and awe, finally spoke up. "Let's at least see what actually happened before we start firing people," he said. "That car's been on its last legs for years. We all know it. It's probably a maintenance issue, not a stunt issue." "We have cameras in the garage," I blurted, my voice cutting through my own fear. "Security footage. You can see exactly what went wrong, who said what, who ran where." All eyes turned to me again, but this time I didn't try to shrink. "If I made a mistake," I said, forcing my voice to stay level, "I'll own it. But I won't let you hang this on Sophia just because she doesn't have a corner office, or on me because I'm easy to replace." For a beat, no one moved. Then Keanu smiled, a small flash of something like pride. "Let's go watch the tapes," he said. Back inside, the security room felt cramped and too bright. A guard pulled up the footage from multiple angles, scrubbing back and forth until we found the moment Tyler started the car. We watched the slow roll, the sudden jerk, the panic. We watched Keanu bolt toward the danger, Sophia wave people clear, Ethan grab someone's arm and yank them out of the path. And we watched the producer step backward behind a row of cases, hands up, eyes wide, disappearing from view while the rest of us ran forward. "Pause there," Keanu said softly. The image froze with everyone mid-movement, mouths open, arms flung out, the tiny flame just beginning to spark. "Rewind 5 seconds. Look at the car's front left wheel." The guard did, zoomed. We all leaned in. The grainy footage showed a dark streak already under the wheel, a tiny reflection of liquid catching the light. "That leak didn't start when Tyler hit the brake," Keanu said. "It was already there. This was going to happen whether we were rehearsing or not." The director sighed, shoulders slumping. "That car should have been scrapped a year ago." The producer's face flushed an ugly red. "Fine," he said. "Maintenance dropped the ball, but the bigger issue stands, this level of risk." "No," Keanu said. "The bigger issue is how fast you tried to sacrifice your own people to protect yourself. That tells me everything I need to know about how this set will feel when the pressure's worse than today." The room felt too small for the weight of his words. The producer's jaw worked, but no words came out. Mark stared at the floor, his usual slick confidence gone. "This is what I propose," Keanu continued. "We fix the safety issues properly. We bring in an independent coordinator to audit your equipment. Sophia stays. Her team gets the resources they need. And Lena," he glanced at me, "gets a promotion. She's not just bringing coffee, she's already making calls that affect story and safety. Give her the title and pay that matches what she's actually doing." My stomach flipped. "What?" I managed sure I'd misheard. "You saw the problem in the system before anyone else did," he said. "You respected the process even when it cost you. Then you ran toward danger instead of away from it. That's someone I want voicing concerns before we roll cameras. The producer almost choked. You can't just... I can choose my projects, Keanu replied. And I can say no, so here's the deal: I stay on Midnight Circuit if those changes happen. Real safety, real respect for the crew, real voice for people like them. He nodded toward me and Sophia. No deal, no movie, at least not with me. The director looked torn in half. The producer looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Mark looked like his career was on a cliff edge. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. We'd have to take that to the board, the producer said finally. You're asking us to rewrite the hierarchy of this company because of one afternoon in a parking garage. I'm asking you to prove you care about more than the opening weekend numbers, Keanu said. There was no snark in his voice, no grandstanding. Just a quiet, stubborn line he wasn't going to step back from. The producer exhaled sharply. Fine, we call an emergency board meeting, they make the final decision. He checked his watch. They're in New York, we can get them on a video call in an hour. As everyone began to file out to prepare, my legs finally gave up and I sank into a chair. Ethan hovered beside me, a strange mix of awe and worry on his face. You okay? He asked. I don't know, I said honestly. I might get promoted or fired before lunch. He smiled softly. Whatever happens, you earned more than they can ever write in a job description. Before I could answer, Mark called my name from the doorway, his voice tight. They want you in the board call too, since your name's all over this now. My pulse spiked. Me, why? Because, he said, forcing a brittle smile, apparently the future of this film now depends in part on what they think of you. An hour later, I sat at the end of the conference table, staring at the screen as a row of executives in expensive suits appeared in little digital boxes, their expressions already impatient. Keanu sat beside me, calm as if we were about to discuss the weather. The producer cleared his throat and began to explain the situation, spinning it as carefully as he could. When he finished, the chairwoman of the board leaned forward, her eyes sharp and unreadable. So, she said slowly, you're telling me our star is refusing to continue unless we change how we run our set and promote a junior assistant who helped cause an incident, according to your report. Her gaze locked onto me through the camera, as if she could see straight through the pixels and into my racing heart. Then we'll have to say no, she continued, letting the words hang like a sentence, unless...